Hey there, welcome back to Find the Joy with Jen. If you're new here, I'm really glad you found this episode. And if you've been here for a while, welcome back. You are always welcome in this space. I am so glad that you're here today. And if you're listening while you're driving, walking, or just doing life, I am so grateful that you press play today. Today, I am talking about something that comes up often and can feel confusing, so painful, and sometimes even hard to put into words: emotional affairs. If you clicked on this episode because something in your marriage feels off, or if you've noticed a growing distance between you and your spouse, or you found yourself emotionally leaning on someone else and you're not quite sure how it happened, I want you to pause with me for just a moment, take a breath. This episode is not about shame. It is not about finger pointing, and it is not about rushing to conclusions or pushing anyone towards divorce. This conversation is about clarity, truth, and hope, and about what's possible when emotional affairs are addressed before things go too far. If conversations like this are helpful to you, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel. I share weekly content on relationships, divorce, healing, and faith-filled growth. And subscribing helps make sure you don't miss any future episodes, friend. I want you to stick around. So let's talk about emotional affairs. What is it exactly? An emotional affair is emotionally intimate relationship with someone outside of your marriage. It mimics the closeness, the vulnerability, and attachment that are meant to exist within a marriage. Even without physical contact, emotional affairs can cause serious damage to trust, sometimes even more than a physical affair, because of the emotional bond that forms. At its core, an emotional affair involves diverting emotional energy away from your spouse and towards another person. And that matters because marriage isn't just about physical fidelity, it is about emotional loyalty. It is about where your heart goes when you're vulnerable. I see this come up so many times with my clients, and I've really wanted to address it here on the podcast for a while. One reason emotional affairs are so confusing is they don't start out feeling wrong. They often begin as a friendship, a shared struggle, a coworker who listens, or someone who seems to understand you. There's usually no intention to betray a spouse in the beginning, but over time, boundaries start to blur. Emotional dependence grows, and the marriage quietly takes a back seat. That's why emotional affairs are often called quiet threats to marriage. They don't explode all at once. They erode slowly. And that's one very good reason to be aware of how they happen and what you can do to avoid them. There are several common signs of an emotional affair, and you don't need to see all of them for this to be relevant. Sometimes even one or two signs are enough to signal that something needs attention. One of the earliest signs is secrecy. This can look like deleting messages, hiding conversations, being vague about who you're talking to, or guarding your phone or devices. Healthy relationships should not involve secrecy. Privacy is one thing, but secrecy erodes trust. When transparency disappears, something deeper is usually going on. Another major sign is when emotional intimacy is redirected. This happens when you have deep conversations about your fears or frustrations or dreams or disappointments with someone else instead of your spouse. You may feel emotionally seen or validated or understood by this person in a way that used to happen with your spouse. Slowly, emotional closeness at home begins to fade. A third sign is turning to this person first. When something good or hard happens in your life, you ask yourself who you want to tell first. If the answer is consistently someone other than your spouse, that is something you should pay attention to, my friend. In emotional affairs, people often turn to the outside relationship for comfort, validation, advice, encouragement, and the spouse becomes an afterthought. Even without physical contact, emotional affairs often involve underlying romantic or sexual tension. This might show up as flirting or chemistry or lingering conversations or thoughts like, I don't know why, but I just feel connected to them. Or maybe it's never been acted on, but the emotional charge is there. Along with this, many people notice growing comparison and resentment. They begin comparing their spouse to this person, feeling more irritated or critical at home or emotionally numb in the marriage. The emotional affair starts to feel like an escape, while marriage begins to feel heavy or draining or like a burden. Another common pattern is what I call the just friends defense. Phrases like it's not physical, or we're just friends, or you're overreacting are often used to minimize what's happening. But emotional attachment is real, and emotional betrayal can be just as painful as physical betrayal. One of the most important things I want you to hear today is this: an emotional affair is rarely the root problem in a marriage. It is usually just a symptom, a signal that something in the relationship has not been addressed. This might include emotional neglect, poor communication, unresolved resentment, loneliness within the marriage, or avoidance of hard conversations. Now, this does not excuse the behavior, but it does change how we respond. Instead of jumping straight to blame or accusations or going to the extreme of separation or divorce, we can ask better questions. What is this revealing? What has been missing? And what needs attention in my marriage now? From a faith-based perspective, this matters so much. Marriage is not just a contract, it is a covenant. It is a covenant between you and God as well as your spouse. There is no one else involved in that sacred triangle. And God cares about your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. God cares about your emotional faithfulness. Scripture teaches us that healing begins with truth. What stays hidden keeps us stuck, but what is brought out into the light can be healed. That doesn't mean the process is easy, nor does it mean trust returns instantly, but it does mean redemption is possible. With humility, accountability, and faith, hearts can be softened and growth can happen, sometimes in ways couples never expect. If you're listening and recognizing yourself as one involved in an emotional affair, I want to speak to you gently. Awareness is not condemnation, it is an invitation to pause, to be honest with yourself, to ask what you've been avoiding in your marriage. What emotional need are you meeting outside of your relationship? What feels unsafe or unmet at home? And what conversation have you been avoiding with your spouse? Owning this doesn't make you a bad person. Ignoring it allows the damage to grow. If your spouse is the one emotionally involved with someone else, your pain is valid, my friend. Your intuition matters. You're not imagining things. You don't need to rush into making decisions, but you do need support. This is not something you are meant to navigate alone. When emotional affairs come into the light, most people feel frozen, caught between fear, anger, confusion, and panic. In that emotional storm, it's easy to jump straight to dramatic conclusions or just choose to separate or pursue divorce as your only option. But many marriages can be saved or at least given a real opportunity to heal when emotional affairs are addressed early and intentionally. Getting help does not mean that you're weak. It means that you are choosing wisdom and intention over a quick, rash response. This is where working with a coach can be incredibly powerful. Coaching helps you learn how to regulate your emotions before reacting. Understand what's really happening beneath the surface in your own life and communicate that effectively without escalating conflict. Learn how to set boundaries without ultimatums and make decisions with clarity rather than panic. Whether your goal is to repair the marriage or simply gain clarity about your next steps, you deserve grounded, steady support in this season. Now, not every marriage will survive an emotional affair. I have seen this many times. Staying is not always the right choice, but many marriages do survive emotional affairs and heal, especially when the affair is brought into the light early and addressed with honesty and support. And even when outcomes are uncertain, the work that you do now will strengthen you for whatever happens in your future. Your clarity, your faith, and your emotional health matter now and in your future. So earlier I shared that emotional affairs are often not the root problem. They are a signal, a symptom that something deeper in the relationship or in your own life needs attention. And this is where so many people get stuck. They focus on behavior, the messages, that other person outside the marriage without ever addressing what led them there in the first place. When you work with a coach, we don't just put a temporary fix on the surface issue. We get to the root of what is actually going on underneath. We look at what's going on underneath the disconnection, that loss of emotional intimacy, and the growing distance in your marriage. We explore why you may feel emotionally detached from your spouse, why commitment feels heavy or unclear for you right now, and why you're longing for a deeper connection, whether it's in your current marriage or a future one if you're single right now. If you feel disconnected from your spouse, unsure about the strength of your marriage, emotionally withdrawn, or afraid of repeating the same patterns again in your future relationship, I want you to know this. Those feelings are not random. They are invitations. And with the right support, they lead you to clarity, healing, and meaningful change in your life and in all of your relationships. If you're listening right now and realizing that emotional affairs, whether yours or your spouse's, are part of your story, I want you to know that you do not have to figure this out on your own. I work with men and women who are navigating these exact challenges, people who feel stuck, confused, hurt, unsure of what to do next, but who want clarity, healing, and peace before making life-altering decisions. I would truly love to support you in this season and walk alongside you as your life coach. The best place to start is with a free Reclaim Your Joy strategy session, a private, faith-filled space where we explore where you are, clarify where you want to go, and help you leave with one practical tool that you can use right away to move forward in your life with confidence, peace, and joy. You don't have to rush. You don't have to have all of the answers right now. You just have to be willing to take that next right step. And I would be so honored to help you do that. If you have found this video helpful, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and share it in the comments, whether it is a question, a reflection, or something you are struggling with right now. Your voice matters here, and your experience may help someone else feel less alone. And before I wrap up today, I want to invite you into something that's really close to my heart. I am currently in the early stages of creating a new women's coaching program called the Joyful Covenant Woman. Instead of building this on theory or assumptions, I want to build it on real women's lived experiences. So I'm conducting a research project to better understand the challenges, fears, desires, and goals of women striving to live their covenants. Whether you're married, divorced, healing, rebuilding, or simply seeking to feel more confident and connected in your relationship with God and yourself and have more joy in your life, I would love to connect with you. This is not a sales call. I'm simply gathering insight so I can serve more women at a deeper, more meaningful level. I'll be doing a handful of short Zoom interviews, and every woman who's participated so far has said the conversation itself was surprisingly valuable. Just having the space to reflect, to be heard, and to put into words the things that they've been carrying. If this resonates with you and you have experiences or questions or perspectives that could help shape this program, I would love to hear from you. So if you're interested, check your email if you're on my email list. If not, go to findthejoywithjen.com and sign up for my email list today, or visit the link in the show notes for this episode and sign up for a quick interview with me. I would love to connect with you, and I would be honored to learn from you and build this program with your help. Remember, there is still joy ahead for you, my friend, and I can help you find it. Bye, y'all.